Welcome in. Today, you guys, we're going to be doing a foundation declutter. I have talked about this on my channel. I did a series called Foundation a Day for 42 days where I did retest a ton of these foundations. Some of them I didn't include in that series because they were new to my collection, and then some of them I have gotten since then, since I started the series. But I want to do a full foundation declutter today. I don't know how many are here. It's obviously more than 42, and many of these I've already decided I want to go, but there's going to be a couple in here that are a bit of a surprise. Some that you haven't actually seen on my channel, some that are still in the testing phases, haven't gone into what I refer to as speed reviews that I do every single month, and then some that I actually changed my mind on after doing that series. As you can see, we're just doing the hands intro today, you guys. We're going to be doing close-ups, and I probably won't be swatching everything, but I'm definitely going to give mini reviews on all of the products. Let's get into it. Let's start off with this one. This is the Diffusion Dew from Make Beauty. This is a really nice product if you like very minimal coverage. It's definitely a dewier foundation, but it's just very, very sheer coverage. It feels like it's a little bit oil-based. It basically just kind of evens out my skin tone, but because I have combo oily skin, it's just not a product that really works for me. It doesn't last. If I'm gonna do something this light coverage, I would rather do a tinted sunscreen. So while I think it's beautiful, I just don't think it has a place in my collection amongst a lot of the other foundations, specifically those with SPF. So I'm going to pass this one along. I guess it's prudent to mention that anything that I pass along I do give to family and friends, and anything that's expired goes into the trash. This one from Charlotte Tilbury is the Beautiful Skin Foundation. This one I actually did do a wear test on in my Foundation a Day for 42 days and decided to keep it. I was one of the few people that I think really liked this particular product when it came out. I feel like it was you liked it or you hated it, but there was kind of nowhere in between. But it has oxidized so much on me. This one is in the shade 3 Neutral. I feel like it's even oxidized more since I did the wear test. You can kind of even see like how much it's oxidized, and I want to say I've only had this for a maximum of 12 months. I think the wear on this for me is actually nice. It's not super long lasting, but it was an unoffensive formula. It didn't do anything extra, and it was pretty medium coverage, so it was kind of the middle of the road foundation for me. Not too drying, not too hydrating, and even though I did decide to keep it for those reasons, the oxidation here has definitely turned me off to this product. Like, you can see how discolored it is in a lot of areas. So for that reason, and because I didn't love it, it wasn't one of my top favorites, I am going to declutter that one. The Triclone Skin Tech Foundation from Haus Labs, it's a fan favorite, and I'm just somebody that this doesn't work for. This seems very heavy on my skin. It sits on my skin in a super strange way, doesn't sink in, doesn't look very natural. It kind of separates as the day carries out. It's just not a favorite of mine. For whatever reason, it just doesn't perform very well on my skin. This was one in my Foundation a Day series that I did decide to declutter, but I have to make mention here that there is a third category in addition to declutter and keep, which is I keep some foundations in reference, but they do not stay in my permanent collection, like in my drawer in my Alex 6, I think. No, Alex 5 drawers. But they do go into the closet in a bin, basically, in case I want to reference it from the brand, but I declutter everything in there at the very end of each year. So anything that's expired or that I haven't used to reference, I do end up decluttering. But for now, this is going to go in reference, but we're counting this as a declutter because it's out of my permanent collection. And I will be showing you guys like the final results of where I keep all of my foundations at the very end of the video. This next one here is from Say. As you can see, like it's been sitting for a while. These ones that are really oil-based, like coconut oil-based, they need to be shaken. This is the Glowy Super Skin Foundation. I have mine in the shade 7. This is too deep of a shade for me. A lot of these foundations, as you guys will see, if I do any swatches, tend to be a little bit deep because I purchase everything online. And a lot of times I end up getting a shade that's just too dark for me. This is too dewy for me. For someone with combo oily skin, this just doesn't perform very well on my skin. It doesn't last very long. The performance also isn't fantastic for me. It doesn't look extra smoothing on my skin or blurs my imperfections in any ways. And anytime a foundation for me isn't an extreme performer, if it's not a long-lasting formula, it's usually something that I end up ignoring. So I am not going to hold on to this one. I'm going to declutter that one. This one from Maybelline, the Instant Age Rewind, I'm pretty sure has been repackaged. This one is in the shade 120 Cream Ivory. I think it's even kind of been reformulated. It's the kind with the puff on it. I think it's fantastic for very, very minimal coverage. When I'm looking for some slight amount of SPF and not a ton of coverage, maybe it's a Sunday or a pool day or something like that, I like this product. I also think it's very smoothing on the skin. It just looks very skin-like and I quite enjoy it. So I'm gonna hold on to this one. This one from Dr. Jart is the BB Premium Beauty Balm with SPF 40. The shade range in this is not very good at all. I want to say there's like 4 shades in this total, and it's meant to be a more sheer coverage. It reminds me a lot of the Misha Perfect Cover BB cream in that it has this kind of grayish tinge, but I do believe this offers more coverage than not. So 4 shades is probably just not enough. And I think the coverage lasts too. As you can see, it's pretty light coverage, like right away. And I think you can build this up. It's basically just overall a good product for a sunny day for me. I do think it's best suited if you're gonna wear it just as a normal kind of skin tint or foundation, that it's better suited for somebody with dry skin, but I do really like it. Again, for a pool day, something along those lines, something that I'm not looking for a lot of coverage, but I know I'm gonna be out in the sun. I think this is a good product. Again, the longevity I think is there, so for that reason, I quite enjoy this. And I did declutter some of its counterparts in the realm of kind of like tinted SPFs, so I'm gonna hold on to this one. Then I have the Complete Wear foundation from Moira. This is supposed to be a weightless full coverage foundation. I really like this foundation for my combo oily skin. It's not my longest lasting, but it's pretty good. The shade range in this could be better. This one is in 250 Natural Buff, which is a little bit too dark for me, but I still feel like I can get away with this. This is also pretty affordable. It's a little bit thicker than some of my favorites that are more full coverage that tend to be a little bit more lightweight, but I still think it performs well. And this is the kind of foundation that I'm reaching for, something that is more full coverage, more long lasting, more mattifying. So I'm gonna hold on to this one as well. And this next one is from Purito. It's the Cica Clearing BB Cream. This one is in Neutral Ivory. This is a K-Beauty brand. I did pick this up on Amazon because one of my subscribers had recommended this, and I think it's like $10, I'm pretty sure. This again is one of those where the shade range is pretty limited, but that happens in K-Beauty quite frequently. This was beautiful on me when I had dry skin. Unfortunately, the longevity just isn't there, and I think you can expect that with a product like this, but I was really comparing it against the Wear from the Dr. Jart because they're very similar in terms of both having SPF, both being like a tinted sunscreen. Head to head, the Dr. Jart just wore better on my skin. Now that I have oily combo skin, I think this is beautiful for people who have dry skin because not only does it give you that really healthy glow, it's just a really hydrating formula, very dewy and radiant finish. I think it's a beautiful product, but probably better suited for someone with dry skin. So I'm going to pass this one along as well. I might as well keep talking about the tinted sunscreens. I have one from Paula's Choice. It's the Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense. This one has SPF of 30. This is the sheerest one that I have in my collection, but it's fantastic for the pool. For the beach, for the pool, something along those lines. Once you rub it in, it basically just kind of evens out your skin tone, doesn't do much in the way of coverage. Not necessarily a foundation in the sense that a foundation or skin tint gives you a ton of coverage, but I keep it with my foundations, and I am going to hold on to this one. The next one is the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Glow. This one is in the shade 16N Fair. Again, another shade that's just too dark for me. This has a really metallic finish, and when I had dry skin and tested this for the first time, I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't mind how dewy it was. I didn't mind the finish of it, but when I retested it with combo oily skin, you guys, I just looked like the Tin Man. It just sat on my skin. It didn't sink in. I didn't need the extra dewiness. And this is probably not for a ton of people, and if it is, it's probably better suited for someone with dry skin because it's just, it feels like it just has a ton of mica in it. It's almost like reflective, basically. And throughout the day, it honestly just felt like it was pulling the oils out of my skin, and that's just a no-no. So I am going to pass this one along as well. The next one that I have is the Givenchy foundation. This one is the Skin Caring Glow version. This is not my favorite anymore, but when I had dry skin, it was very nice. It's again a more radiant product. This top just like spins around. I absolutely hate it. It's more medium coverage, but it's a tackier finish. It really just grips to the skin and gives you kind of a radiant glow. Kind of the reason that I did the foundation a day series was to retest my foundations without just getting rid of the ones that used to work for me since my skin change. And if you're curious and this is your first time watching my video, I have no idea why I went from dry to combo oily skin. I would assume hormones, because that's basically the only thing that's changed, I'm sure. This is a pretty pricey, expensive foundation. I wouldn't say that it's bad. It just doesn't have extreme longevity. It's just not as smoothing on my skin as some of the other ones. This one does have a really intense fragrance though. I always try and mention that when something has a ton of fragrance in it, that if you're sensitive to that I just note it. And while this is not my favorite product, I feel like I still want to get a little bit more use out of this, but I can't see myself kind of keeping this into the next declutter. I would easily guess that if I didn't end up getting a ton more use out of this, or there wasn't a time of year where this just looked beautiful on me, like I would probably end up getting rid of it because it's just not one of my favorites. I feel like what is motivating me to keep it is really that it's a newer product, that I used to like it. It's Givenchy, and it was expensive. I think those are like my main motivation, and that it didn't suck on my skin. But it is definitely not one of my favorites. But for now, again, I am going to hold on to that one. One from the drugstore that is a matte foundation is the Revlon Color Stay Full Coverage Foundation. This is in the shade 110 Ivory. This I think is like not for the faint of heart. If you're somebody with really oily skin, this is a great affordable foundation because it is the mattest thing I own. I have never worn anything matter that doesn't look cakey and dry, but I feel like you do need to go in with a lighter layer with this, even if you have oily skin, because it can tend to look heavy. This is a foundation that I would like to use mostly in the summertime when it gets really hot and really humid and you're sweating a lot here in Florida. That's basically what this is good for. Just like it says, it's full coverage and matte, but it doesn't separate, which I really look for. I think the separating on my skin is an immediate no-no. It doesn't work for my skin type basically, but I can get along with lighter coverage or more full coverage or mattifying or even dewy. It's the separating, like it's the wear. How does it wear and how does it wear on my skin? And I think this is pretty, again, just something that I want to hold on to, especially for the summertime here, because this is just a perfect pairing with humidity. Here is another one that is really full coverage, I would say, and also very matte. It's the MAC Studio Everywhere All Over Face Pen, which I think they market this as a concealer and not a foundation. What shade is this? NC15. It's actually like a perfect shade match for me. This is a very light shade. It's the kind where you twist the bottom and then press it and it comes out. This is like a perfect shade match for me, where a lot of my other ones are not so good. This one I held on to. It did not go into my foundation a day series because I really liked it, and also it was brand new when I started that series. Unfortunately though, I'm on the fence about this one. It is very similar to the Revlon Full Cover Matte Foundation. Extremely mattifying, not a good concealer at all for me. You know what? I thought I was gonna declutter this, but I think I'm gonna do what I'm doing with the Revlon Color Stay is that keep this through the summertime to see if it works, because as it gets very humid and we start sweating a lot, I do want more mattifying foundations that are really gonna last. So yeah, I thought I was going to declutter this, but I'm going to hold on to it and test it again in the upcoming months and see if I like it. One of my favorites is the Prada Reveal Foundation. The formula on this is extremely lightweight and serum-like. This is a removable component, so the glass container just comes in this plastic container. It does contain alcohol though, so that does irritate some people. So if you're sensitive to that, it's not a foundation for you. This just melts into the skin. It looks so sophisticated. It really has this beautiful kind of luminous matte or satin matte finish to it. It has nice longevity. I would say it's very light to medium coverage. It's one of my favorite in my collection, but it's probably not my favorite because I don't think the wear is as long as some of my favorites. But this one is going nowhere. I really enjoy this. Again though, I don't think it's for everyone simply because it does contain alcohol and fragrance in it. But I think it's absolutely beautiful on my skin. I would say with this particular foundation, it probably works best for kind of combo to oily skin because it's a luminous matte finish. One of my absolute favorites in my collection is the Lancome Tint Idole Ultrawear Care and Glow. This one is in the shade 105W. I think the name of this is quite deceiving because this is more of a satin matte finish. Because I think the Care and Glow sounds like it would be kind of a radiant finish. It might have a slight dewiness when you first put it on, but it sets itself down and then it becomes a satin foundation. This one does have an SPF of 20. It also does have fragrance in it. It's more like a whipped consistency, but the way that it melts into my skin is beautiful. The initial wear is great. The wear of it throughout the day is great. This is the kind of product that it looks pretty medium to full coverage, and then you take a nap and you wake up and none of it transferred. It just locks down. It's kind of a self-setting product. And I'm really interested in trying some more from the Tint Idole line because I loved this product so much. So I'm holding on to this one for sure. And I feel like I've gotten like a significant use out of this one. Like you can tell the ones that I kind of really like as we get through here that start having like significant use. So we are definitely holding on to this one. The next one that I have up is Hourglass. This is the hydrating skin tint, the Veil hydrating skin tint, I guess. This one is in the shade 4. This is, I think, too dark for me. It didn't matter too much. It doesn't have a ton of coverage to it. Shade 4 is super warm though. As you can see, this is like really orange. I did not put this in my Foundation a Day series because this was brand new at the time. And at that point, I was certain I wanted to keep it because it was the first Hourglass complexion product that worked for me. I tried when I had dry skin, the Veil, I cannot remember what it's called, the foundation that came out. I want to say it was the end of 2022. That looked terrible on me. It separated on my skin and I ended up decluttering it, which I feel like that foundation probably would work well for me now with combo oily skin. And I'm a little sad that I ended up decluttering it, but I kept this one because it was the first Hourglass complexion product that worked for me. But I have to say it's not meant for my skin type. It's more meant for dry skin, I think, because it's extremely dewy on the skin. It gets dewier as the day goes on. It's very kind of greasy looking on me. I do think it's like a beautiful product though. I think it doesn't separate in a strange way. I just can't handle how much dewiness this has without having like a reason or a purpose, like an SPF and etc. So I am going to, am I gonna put this in reference? You know, I'll probably put this in reference because it's not a very old product. Yeah. I think I'll hold on to this one in reference, but it's going to get decluttered from my permanent collection. The next one that I have is the LYS Triple Fix Serum Foundation. This one is a little bit too deep for me too. It's in LN6. This smooths out my skin. This foundation is actually like described as good for uneven texture. I feel like this is such a beautiful, very natural, like very skin-like foundation that's light, medium, buildable coverage. This is the kind of foundation that doesn't last an extremely long time, but it wears graciously on the skin. And so this one has a place for me in my collection. I think it's completely underrated product, quite honestly, and it's pretty affordable. The only thing I dislike is that a lot of the components, the packaging to LYS end up breaking on me because of this, I don't know, triangle shape is kind of compromised. It's just harder to construct, I guess, and these little plastic pieces have snapped off, but I love this foundation and it is going nowhere. Even for oily skin, I still feel like this one has a place in my collection. And then I have the Bobbi Brown Skin Longwear Weightless Foundation with SPF 15. I used to love this. However, it does sink into my fine lines. I think this formula has kind of turned. I want to say I've had this for like over 2 years at this point, and the formula is just different than I remember it. It's a lot drier on my skin, and even with oily skin, I did not like how dry this looked. In addition to that, I feel like it doesn't wear super graciously throughout the day. It sits on the skin more so than some of my other full coverage foundations, and it kind of breaks apart depending upon if I'm sweating a lot or whatnot during the day. So I'm going to declutter this one. And then I have one from Maybelline. This is the Fit Me foundation. It's the dewy and smooth version. I bought this so long ago. This is probably one of my oldest foundations in my collection. And if you can see, like, it's oxidized. It's basically orange at this point. This one is in the shade 115 Ivory. That is not an ivory shade at all. It's pretty, it's beautiful. It's great for people with dry skin. I want to say this is one of those foundations that again looks very skin-like on the skin. It's not the longest lasting, but I think for dry or normal to dry skin, it's beautiful. but it's old and it's oxidized and it's just not the type of foundation I'm reaching for anymore. So I'm going to declutter this one. That one's just going to get thrown away. And then I have another one here from Maybelline. This is the Superstay 24-hour skin tint in shade 112. Can you guys like see like the mica in it? Like the pearls? Ew. This one reminds me, I'm sorry if you love this, but ew. This one reminds me of the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Glow. It has that mica or pearlescence in it. This just looks super heavy on me. It's not like a skin tint, really, in essence of what a skin tint is, even though it's kind of serum-like. This is way more full coverage, I think, personally, like once you get it to the skin. But it performs like the Tarte in that it really does kind of look sort of metallic. Not as much as the Tarte, but I don't like the way this wears either. I feel like it sits on top of the skin. This is just not a product that works really well for me. It might be something that works better for people with dry skin, maybe. I don't know. It didn't work for me. I feel like it's too dewy and it doesn't wear super well, so I'm gonna declutter that one. Let's keep it up with the drugstore ones. So I have the Revlon Serum Tint. This one has an SPF of 15. This is the one that came out this year. I wanna say, no, maybe in December of last year. It's from the Illuminance line. I love this. For someone with oily skin, I just think the Revlon products, for whatever reason, tend to work really well on me. This is such a light formula that offers light, buildable to medium coverage, and it's so beautiful on the skin. It's not grossly dewy. It's not extremely radiant or it interacts with my oils in a negative way. It just looks super beautiful on the skin. I actually think it's more satin than it kind of leads on because it's this illuminance like tinted serum. I think that it has more longevity and more of a satin finish than you would think on this. This one, by the way, is in the shade 113 and I think it's a perfect shade match for me. I love this thing even with my combo oily skin, holding on to it. And we can just keep going with Revlon. Do I have more Revlon? I have one more from Revlon. Yes, I do. Again, from the Illuminance line. Love this as well. This is the Skin Caring Foundation in the shade 117. Also a pretty good shade match for me. For whatever reason, the Illuminance line works really well on my skin. This is also very natural looking, very skin-like. It smooths out my skin. Again, not the longest lasting, but it's beautiful. I feel like me and Revlon get along really well in that they have worked for me with dry skin and oily skin in a lot of their foundations. Not every single formula, but a lot of them. I highly recommend this to pretty much anybody as a drugstore option. So I'm holding on to this one as well. Another huge recommendation from the drugstore is the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Foundation. This one is in the shade N1 Neutral Light, which is also a really good shade match for me. This one also performs very similarly to the Revlon. It's very natural looking, very skin-like. I want to say the Revlon probably isn't as long lasting as the L'Oreal one, and it doesn't come in as many shades. This one comes in, I want to say 45 shades. It's also formulated with 6 different pigments, so you can get a better shade match. And 45 shades for a drugstore foundation that you can get for $9.99 at Target, where I think this originally retails for $13.99, is basically unheard of. It's the same thing that Lancome does in their foundations, is that they formulate it with 6 different pigments that are supposed to be really good for shade matching undertones. This one does that. It's the only drugstore foundation that I know that does that. This is kind of one of those that I feel like is an editorial drugstore foundation where I can take a nap in it and wake up and look the same. I love the way this wears. I think it's great on my combo oily skin. It's another huge recommendation that I have from the drugstore. This one and the Revlon Illuminance, I think, are probably my favorite drugstore foundations at the current moment. But one that I didn't like from L'Oreal is the Age Perfect 4-in-1 Tinted Balm. This was too dark anyway, but it's already kind of like, I don't know if you can see this. It seems to like have, I don't know, changed or oxidized in there. This was really sheer. I like a balm, but I don't have a place for this in my collection. I felt like this was just a little bit too sheer and maybe kind of too greasy on me. It just didn't perform well on my skin. I think this is too deep kind of a shade anyway in 20 Fair. It's a little bit more warm tones than I like, so I have no place for this. That one is gonna go. One here from Guerlain. This is the I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that. It's the Natural Glow Foundation. This has been reformulated. This is totally a discontinued product, so they don't make this one anymore, or this version anymore. This was the first Guerlain foundation that I tried. This just doesn't work for me. And I've come to find that Guerlain foundations don't seem to work for me at all. This was way too dry on the skin. It was nice and what I would consider full coverage. I liked that, but way too drying. Even for combo oily skin, it's a really, really dry formula. So because they don't even make this particular version anymore, I'm gonna pass this one along. Here's my other one from Guerlain. It's the Terracotta Healthy Glow Natural Perfection Foundation. This doesn't wear well on me. This tends to separate, and I don't know why. There's just some, I feel like they interact with my skin type and my oils, and they just don't look really good on the skin. This is one of those, and I was so sad. It looks like I've used a lot. Holy smokes. I really have only used this like 4 times. I mean, this is a newer foundation to me. I was hoping this one would work. This one, Allure Best of Beauty, I want to say for 2022 or 2023. It just didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. And I don't think I need to hold on to this. I don't talk about Guerlain too much on my channel, so I'm gonna let this go. I'm gonna pass this on. One that I do really like is from Smashbox. It's the Always On Skin Balancing Foundation. I think this is a really interesting formula. It's primer infused. It kind of self-sets itself. It claims to have adaptogens that act as an internal thermostat so that it's supposed to kind of control and balance the oils that you produce. I want to say it's a more kind of satin finish foundation, but it looks super natural on the skin. It's smoothing. It doesn't last the longest. My oils do pop out with this, but I love the way that it breaks down. It just wears evenly and graciously. Huge favorite of mine. Gonna hold on to this one. Then I have the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Foundation. This is nice if you like a more, I want to say, kind of light buildable, this is separating, to medium coverage serum-like foundation. It's very beautiful. It's non-offensive. It's just very, very light, and that's nice if you like that. I think that it's great for someone with dry skin. I also really liked this with oily skin if I wasn't looking for a ton of coverage that day. But this is so old in my collection. This is probably about as old as this one from Maybelline. So this one also just needs to go because this is like 4 years old at this point. So I wish I had gotten more use out of it. I like it for something more sheer, not something I'm reaching for, but because of its age, I'm gonna let it go. This one is such an interesting product. This is the W7 Genius Featherlight Foundation. This is a liquid to powder formula, and W7 is a brand out of the UK that dupes a lot of other kind of high-end brands. I'm not sure exactly what this is duping, but this is like water. It's basically like a water foundation, and it literally self-sets. It turns to powder, and it is so soft on the skin. It has kind of a satin finish to it. I absolutely loved this when I first got it because I think I had dry skin. It's one of the easiest to take off and then reapply. So if you're doing like a blush try on or something, I know you guys probably don't do that, but anytime I was trying to like reapply blushes, I would use this because it's such an easy product to put on and take off. It's just the longevity isn't there for me. One that's like also very blendable and kind of serum-like is the L'Oreal True Match, and it lasts longer. So even though I loved this at one point, I just don't feel like I will reach for this over some of my other favorites, and I don't want to keep for the sake of keeping. I really want to keep the ones I'm going to use because I love, love, love them. And this just wasn't a love, love, love for me because of the wear and longevity. It just wasn't extra smoothing on the skin, even though the formula felt really good. So going to declutter that one. My only stick foundation, I'm pretty sure, is the one from Fenty. It's the Ease Drop Blur and Smooth Tint Stick. This one did not go into my Foundation a Day series because it was, again, brand new. And initially, I thought I was going to keep it. And then I decided I was going to declutter it or hold on to it for reference. And now that I'm doing this declutter, I literally haven't reached for it since it went into a speed reviews. And I think the reason that I was going to put it in reference technically and declutter it was because it was pretty light coverage and it wasn't the most smoothing on the skin. However, I do think this is the smoothest stick foundation I've ever tried, or stick skin tint I've ever tried. I want to give this another shot. There was a particular smoothing primer that I was using this with that looked really good on the skin. So maybe I do want to keep this. So this one I'm going to hold on to because I do want to retest it just privately. Yeah, so I'm going to hold on to that one. The next one that I have is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. This is the dewy version with the weird paddle. This is like the third oldest foundation that I have in my collection. Very similar to the Maybelline Fit Me, but this one is, I think, much less expensive. I think this smells like nail polish remover. I've never been a fan of the scent, but I always loved the way this looked. I felt like it was light, buildable coverage, and it had a really beautiful dewy finish without being greasy. It wasn't the longest lasting. I mean, that tends to happen with dewier foundations, but it was beautiful. The thing is, I don't think it's meant for me now that I have combo oily skin, and it's older, so I'm gonna declutter it. The next one that I have is a cream foundation from RMS Beauty. It's the Uncover Up Cream Foundation. I love a lot of RMS Beauty products, but this is just not for me. It's very, very thick, and I have been told you need to take just like the lightest amount and apply it. It's just that it didn't wear graciously on me. It was one of those that didn't sink in because of its formula. It separated on my skin as well. It felt heavy. I haven't met a cream foundation that I like, honestly, so this one I'm gonna hold on to for reference, I think. No, I'm gonna fully declutter this one. I just need to pass this along to someone who might get more use out of this. There's no sense in me holding onto this for reference. If I was ever to reference like a full face of RMS Beauty again, and that is why I purchased this, I would try the liquid foundation and not the cream. So I'm gonna declutter that one. I think the last like compact product in foundation is the KVD Good Apple Skin Perfecting Foundation Balm. I loved this when it first came out. A lot of people were putting out videos that were showing like when you put this on a piece of paper, like how much oils were in this balm. I loved that about it because I had really dry skin when this first launched. It's just not meant for, I think, people with combo oily skin. It's a whipped texture. So, you know, less of like the lightweight balminess that the L'Oreal Age Perfect is. This is a thicker consistency. My oils just want to tear this apart. Like they want to tear this formula up. So even though I think it's beautiful and I've had compliments on it when wearing it, like it's really full coverage. It's kind of one of those looks good on camera situations. It's just not meant for my skin type now. So I'm gonna declutter that. The next one that I have is the e.l.f. Flawless Satin Foundation. This is currently in my project pan. I think this is beautiful. I loved this foundation. I don't even know why I bought this, but I loved it when I had dry skin, and then I put it in my foundation a day for 42 days. I know it doesn't wear as well now on my oily skin. It doesn't matter though. The way that this performs is like smoothing. It like locks down on my skin. I love the satin finish. Again, kind of one of those I feel like I take a nap in, wake up, okay, I look the same. Nothing changed. It doesn't wear off terribly fast or easily. It doesn't dry me out. It doesn't separate. It's kind of a whipped texture though. It's like a little bit of a thicker consistency. So if you don't like thicker foundations, this might not be like for you. It's also fragranced too. This is a $6 foundation though, like medium coverage. I would even say this is like a buildable formula too. And it's in my project pan. So you know that I'm not letting it go. Again, $6, completely underrated satin finish foundation from e.l.f. Totally underrated complexion product from e.l.f. in my personal opinion. So I'm holding on to this one. The next one that I have is the Free Dreaming Skin Wellness Diffusion Tint from Cali Ray. This one is in the shade The Two, a very light dream. I liked this when I had dry skin, but I don't know what's up with this. Like after a while, and I haven't had this that long, and I like a lot of Cali Ray products, so I'm just like a little shook that this is as kind of drying as it ends up like being. Wow, that really separated. Yeah. It seems like it's this super lightweight formula, like when it goes on, but it's more satin matte, I think. It's more of a satin matte finish when it like sets itself down. And if you can see, it's like a tackier formula. Like it's not easily moved, if that makes sense. it's a thicker consistency. I don't know. I don't know why this doesn't perform very well, or even how I think that it would based on kind of the name of it. I don't know if it's evident that it's just a thicker consistency, but it just doesn't perform very well on me. And also, like, the longevity isn't there, even though it kind of sets itself down. I don't have a purpose for this. I don't like the way this wore, so I'm gonna pass this along. One I am definitely holding on to is from Iconic London. It's the Super Smoother Blurring Skin Tint. This one is in neutral light. This one doesn't have a ton of longevity, and I did not like this once upon a time. But in my retesting it, my foundation a day for 42 days, I fell in love with this product. I don't know why I didn't love it when I first tried it. I think, I don't know. I think it kind of separated a little bit on my dry skin. So for whatever reason, when I retested it with combo oily skin, the longevity is gone, but it stopped separating. So I don't know, make that make sense. I have no idea. Different skin types, honestly, will just make a foundation or skin tint react in a certain way. I just don't understand in terms of formulations. But the way that this blurs my skin, I love it. Longevity is like, I don't know, a couple of hours for me, but if I'm looking for something that I feel like I don't need longevity, but I want my skin to look really smooth and perfected, that's where this comes in. That's why this has a place in my collection. So this one is staying. This one from Patrick Ta is the Cream Foundation and Finishing Powder Duo. I have mine in the shade Fair 2. I think I really liked this when I first tried it, and then I think a lot of people didn't. And so I was that 10% that I feel like I saw of people saying that they did like it. I just didn't love it in my retest because I just feel like this is, I don't know, it's probably not meant for oily skin because it's kind of like the KVD where it's just this thicker texture. And so it didn't sink into my skin the way that it did when I had dry skin because it's thicker. And my oils kind of made it separate on my face, and I don't love that. I also don't love the finishing powder because I don't use finishing powders very often. I will use a really mattifying powder or a powder foundation on top of my foundation. So this almost has kind of no purpose for me. I mean, it's a decent amount of product, I think, in terms of net weight comparatively. It's just not a product that works for me. However, because I like a lot of Patrick Ta stuff, and it may be relevant at some point to reference this particular product, I am going to hold on to it in reference for at least the next declutter at the end of the year. The next foundation that I have is the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation. This does have mica in it, but I never see it. This one I've had, could be like 2 years at this point. When this launched, everybody fell in love with it. I hated it. I thought it was terrible for dry skin. It looked heavy, it looked cakey. It was not good for me. And I kept it because it was super popular and that was the only reason. But then when I did my series and I retested this with combo oily skin, I tell you what, guys, this is gorgeous. It's an editorial, long-lasting foundation, but I believe it's meant for oily skin. If you have dry skin and this works for you, fantastic. It did not work for me. I don't know why, but I think it's beautiful now. It's pretty expensive. It's $50, but I want to say this comes in like 40 shades. I like the shade range in this. Overall, I just think it's a beautiful product for my skin type now. So I'm going to hold on to this one. My favorite foundation in my whole collection is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. I feel like it might even be like cliche that this is my favorite. I don't know. But this performs on me so well. It's a medium to full coverage foundation that I feel like never looks too heavy on me, and it wears all day. It's beautiful in real life. It's beautiful on camera. The wear on it is exactly what I would want. It's smoothing. It's like that medium coverage that just looks like skin as it meshes with my oils. And this is such a beautiful product for me. I'm not even sure what made me pick this up, to be honest with you. And I can't believe how much I ended up loving it. It's my favorite foundation currently in my collection. So this absolutely goes nowhere. This one is in 3 neutral. I mean, if I'm looking to look good during the day, like this is genuinely like what I will pick up. So love that one. This one from Tower 28, the Sunny Days Tinted Sunscreen. For whatever reason, this separates on me. So it could be that the formula just doesn't like my oils. I just don't enjoy this. This is in the shade 10 Larchmont. I feel like when I had dry skin, it was nice, but it wasn't perfect. And I feel like it doesn't work even like any better. I think that it performs worse. So I'm gonna pass that along. The next one I have is from Clarins. It's the Everlasting Youth Fluid. This is highly, highly fragranced. It's a nice foundation. It's a little bit of a thicker consistency though. It's kind of a whipped texture. It even kind of feels a little bit thick and heavy on me. I think it's pretty, but I don't think it's perfect. This one I did decide to hold on to in my foundation a day because I feel like if I go in with like a lighter layer, it's pretty nice. It isn't the most long lasting. It kind of feels like it would be because it's a little bit of a kind of whipped texture. It's not serum like. It kind of locks down on the face. I think it wears gracefully. I just don't think it wears very long on me. I'm gonna hold on to this one, but I know that it's not my favorite. It's not the one that I will reach for if I'm looking to have a great makeup day, but I'm just not ready to let it go. So that one is still gonna stay. And then I have the Shiseido Synchro Skin Radiant Lifting Foundation. I got this version when I had dry skin because I felt like this one would be better than the matte version or the self-refreshing one. And I think I really liked it when I had dry skin. It looks very, very heavy on me now. I don't know what that's about. I think that if you go in with a lighter layer, it's nice. And this is a deviation from what I initially had decided to do. I am going to declutter it because I've retested it since my Foundation a Day series. I want to love it. That's the thing. I just don't. I don't like the way that this looks. I don't think it smooths out my skin. I don't think it sinks in the way some other products do. So I'm gonna pass this one along. I'm gonna declutter it. One that I really do like is the Laura Mercier Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Foundation. This is like almost serum-like. It reminds me a lot of the W7, which is liquid to powder. This one I believe has like a ton of oils. See how lightweight it is? It's like basically water. W7 is kind of the drugstore equivalent to this foundation. Like it just travels. It is smoothing when it goes on the skin. Yeah, it's like an oil-based foundation. This one's a little bit too deep for me. I really like it though. The longevity isn't there, but it's still gorgeous. If you go in with this like really light layer, it just feels good on the skin too. This is a really good product and I feel like I loved it and I thought it was very unusual before Glamzilla tried it and then it kind of went viral and then everybody started testing it. Like I had already loved this. I bought this when it first launched, when it first released and did a review on it. I think it's a really good product. Again, longevity isn't there for me, but it's very smoothing and very beautiful in the skin. It feels good going on, so I'm gonna hold on to that one. One that I do really enjoy is the one from Gucci. It is the Luminous Matte version. I really like this. I think though that this tends to be a little bit yellow leaning on my skin. This one is in the shade 16N Fair. It's also highly fragranced. I like it. It's really lightweight, but it's medium to full coverage. I like the way that it wears on my skin. Again, one of those that just kind of like travels. You just need a little bit. I love a luminous matte finish. I just like the way that this wears on me particularly. I do think this has alcohol in it though, so if you're sensitive to that, you probably wouldn't like it. But I don't seem to mind it. My skin doesn't ever yell at me about it when it has alcohol in the ingredients, so I'm for sure gonna hold on to that one. One that is also very, very similar is the All Hours Foundation from YSL. This is another one that's a luminous matte finish, which I've seemed to get along with really well. They're kind of lighter weight formulas, I feel like. See how they just like, they're much lighter weight, but they dry down to almost this powdery kind of matte finish. I guess that's just what my skin likes. So I highly enjoy this. I'm definitely keeping this one. This one also highly, highly fragrant, just like Gucci. The next one that I have is from Too Faced. This is the Born This Way Healthy Glow Foundation. You can see like how much it's separated. The shade is too deep for me anyway. It's very, very warm. This one is in the shade Vanilla. I always feel like Too Faced shades kind of run a little bit deep. I used to love this. I feel like when I had dry skin, I think it was nice. It's kind of like a watery consistency, but again, kind of one of those that's more mattifying than you would think it would be with the name like Healthy Glow. I guess it's kind of like the satin matte finish when it all is said and done. The thing is though, it doesn't break down nicely on my oily skin. The way that it ends up wearing is not great. It doesn't smooth out texture on my face. So, and it's too deep. I mean, if it was perfect, I would probably declutter it and get like a better shade. I think there just are certain formulas that just don't work on certain skin types, and it could be person to person, quite honestly. Just how your oils interact with the product itself sometimes just isn't a match. So I'm gonna pass this one along. I am also gonna pass this one along. This is the Catrice True Skin Hydrating Foundation. Don't think there's anything hydrating about it at all. And typically something like this would be something I would reach for now, based on its formula, which is a little bit more mattifying. I like the concealer in the True Skin line. This separates on me terribly. It does not look good. It looks dry and cakey. This is not a favorite of mine. Don't find anything hydrating about it. So that one is going to be decluttered. However, I do like the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation. I just feel like this has the full coverageness that we needed from Catrice in a lighter weight formula, and it doesn't do the weird dry thing, and it doesn't do the weird separating thing. So this is one that I like thoroughly enjoy. I am definitely gonna hold on to this one from Catrice. And this one makes me really, really sad. This is the Dior Forever Skin Glow in the shade 1.5N, which is basically what I use in every one of my Dior complexion products. It's a pretty good shade match for me. I could probably go one, but I tend to go up a shade. I picked this up when I had dry skin, thinking the Skin Glow would be a little bit more hydrating. I didn't like it then, and I was sad that I didn't like it because I like my other two, or my other kind of complexion products from Dior, and their concealer is some of my favorite. And in essence, this feels like it would work. It's a medium weight formula. Like, it's not overly serumy, but it's not thick and whipped. It just breaks down funny. It doesn't wear nicely on me. It's not a graciously wearing product, and it seems to, again, kind of separate on me. I would like to try more Dior complexion products, but I have two other ones in my collection, the Backstage Face and Body. One I'm gonna hold on to, but I'm gonna let the other one go. But this just doesn't work for me. I've tried. I want it to work. I don't know what it is with me and my skin, or it and my skin, but I'm gonna pass that along. Let's just jump into the two Dior products that I have. So as you can see, this has a line on it because of my Project Pan line. This was the original Backstage Face and Body foundation. This is the reformulated version. This was once my holy grail. It was this and like two other foundations that I reach for all the time, basically. I think it works really well for people with dry skin though. It's supposed to be a humidity and sweat proof like product. I don't think that it does that now on my more oily skin. It's an extremely lightweight formula and kind of serum-like and liquidy. It just gives that really nice like satin finish foundation. There's something about very lightweight and satin finish foundations that are just my kind of preference. I'm typically only surprised when it's a different formula that seems to work for me. This one, it doesn't have the longevity that it used to have though on my skin. So I have debated not putting this in the Project Pan and just decluttering it. But as it compares to the reformulated version that is now about 94% natural ingredients, this does not perform the same as that one does on my skin. I've heard a lot of people say, I don't see a difference. That's fine, that's great. And I think we miss that in the makeup world, talking about like, oh, we have the same skin type and that product worked great for me. Well, our perceptions will never be the same, and we don't share the same skin or live in the same environment. So all of those things are gonna impact wear. That's just the way it goes. This product, I feel like, doesn't have the same kind of sweat, crease, transfer, humidity proofness that this one does. For me personally, the wear of it just isn't as long. And while I have the older version, I don't think I need to reference this, and this performs better. If you can see, they've lightened the shades as well. Same thing with the concealer, the Forever Skin Correct Concealer. They've also lightened the shade during reformulations. I am going to hold on to this one in reference, and I'm going to keep this one in my Project Pan. So technically I'm decluttering the reformulation and keeping the old formulation. And then I have the Misha Perfect Cover BB Cream in shade number 21. I used to really like this. This one again is one of those like grayish tinged Korean Beauty tinted sunscreens. I just prefer the way that the Dr. Jart wears on me over this one. And I think that the longevity is better too. And because I just don't reach for products like this very often the way that I used to, I have to minimize the number of products that perform like this. So it was, again, the Purito, the Misha, the Dr. Jart, all very similar in consistency and formula and type of product that they are. And I think that the Dr. Jart just won. And this is a little bit of an older product anyway. So I'm going to pass this one along as well. The next one that I have is the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Skin Tint. This one is in the shade 4. I think this is a beautiful product. I would like to see Danessa expand the range and shades on this. I think it only comes in 15 different shades. And even though they say like super flexible shades, I still feel like this has more coverage than 15 shades worth. I find that it actually gives me light, medium to buildable coverage. But having said that, you guys, I absolutely love this. It wears beautifully on the skin, even with my oily skin. Again, not super long lasting, but it smooths out my skin in such a beautiful way. And it has a ton of really good ingredients in this. And overall, I just really like the performance, even though the longevity isn't there. And I feel like if it works for my skin type, being combo to oily skin, I feel like it would work for a multitude of skin types. I did not get along with the Yummy Skin Serum foundation that was more full coverage. That just absolutely separated on me. But this works really well. And I have loved this with different skin types. So I'm holding on to that one for sure. One that I absolutely hate is the e.l.f. Camo Hydrating CC Cream. Oh man, I can't even tell you how much I have a distaste for this. This is in Fair 120N. I did do a video on this, testing new e.l.f. products that launched this year. And I was hoping that because this was a dewy finish and a hydrating version, that it would be better than the original CC cream, which was very mattifying, very full coverage, and it didn't wear well. It was very thick on my skin and it separated, but this just didn't do it. I mean, I feel like this is very similarly formulated to the other version. I didn't get along with it at all. So the Satin Flawless Finish Foundation from e.l.f. is just where it's at for me. These camo products just don't work. The concealers don't work for me. These CC creams don't work for me. I'm gonna hold on to this in reference until my next declutter because I do want to talk about this in future videos, potentially my roundup, worst makeup of 2024. Like, spoiler alert, but I'm going to declutter that from my permanent collection. This next one that I have is the Diamond Perfector Mineral Wear BB Cream from Physicians Formula. I think this has mica in it. There's definitely like some pearls going on in this. You can see it up close on your skin. I think they dissipate over time, but it has like that pearlescentness. It is detectable that you can kind of see. I don't think I initially saw it, but I think as I continued to test it, I definitely did see it. And it probably is pretty hard to pick up on camera, but I think it's a beautiful product. I think it's lightweight, I think it's light coverage, and I like the way that it wears on me. And I think that's just it. Again, this is just like, you know, my internal discussion. How much room do I have in my collection for lighter coverage kind of BB creams that aren't super long lasting? I mean, I have a place. It's just, I want to dial that type of product down. I just think this wears so beautifully. So it does get to rent that space in my collection. So I'm holding on to that one. Another one that I really like that's a new release is from About Face. This one is in L1 Cool, which I think they kind of missed the mark on. This is the Performer, I want to say. Yeah, the Performer foundation. It just is a little bit warm overall. It has a doe foot applicator to it. I want to say this is like quite a bit more product than normal, 1.08 fluid ounces. So not bigger than some of my other ones, but it's pretty big. The doe foot applicator is definitely difficult to get out. You can see how like warm this shade is for me, or just in general, but I think it's still really pretty. It's one of those that I feel like it has more coverage than the BB cream from Physicians Formula, but it wears perfectly for being light to medium coverage. Not the most long lasting, but still a really, really good product. It just looks really nice on the skin. I keep saying kind of over and over, like smoothing and blurring. When it does that, I'm immediately drawn to that because I'm definitely interested in smoothing out the texture on my face, and just not every product does that. So I think this one does. I'm highly enjoying it. I'm holding on to that one. One that I do like, but I think really matters how you wear it is the Ritual Defy 3-drop weightless serum foundation. I don't think I really loved this with dry skin, which is kind of an interesting dynamic, I suppose, that it's like this serum-like consistency. And so you'd think it would be super lightweight, but it's like the Laura Mercier in that like it's oil-based, so it can travel really far, but it's like a self-setting product. It's also like the W7 where it's like a liquid to powder. That's how this feels. Those three are very, very similar in my collection, that they travel super far, that they're like a liquid to powder, but they're like oil-based. Very interesting consistency, just very interesting product in general. And those are the three that I've noted have very, very similar formula, texture, all of that. Even their wear is a little bit similar. The thing is with 3 drops, I think is too much. I think 2 is perfectly fine. I think you get pretty full coverage with just 2 drops with this. It's not my most smoothing on the skin though. I want to say that the Laura Mercier one does a little bit better job in smoothing out uneven texture than this one does, but I still think it's beautiful. And I think it performs way better on my combo oily skin now than it did when I had dry skin, even though it seems maybe counterintuitive to think a product like this that is so lightweight and serumy wouldn't work on dry skin. But again, it's self-setting. Like it's almost a matte foundation, like almost a full coverage matte foundation. So, but I like it. I think it performs well on me now, so I'm gonna hold on to it. Okay, just a few more foundations to go. I have probably the most inexpensive one in my collection is the Relove Super Serum foundation. This one is like more full coverage. Again, it's supposed to be like hyaluronic acid foundation. It's supposed to be hydrating. I feel like this again is kind of a semi-matte finish foundation, maybe even matte. I mean, it's very lightweight and it's nice. It's like almost full coverage. I just don't think of the other ones that perform pretty similarly to this. This one has the best wear overall. I don't feel like it's as hydrating as some of the other ones that are meant to be hydrating but still come out more satin matte. I don't know. So I don't have a place in my mind for this over the other ones that I feel perform very similarly. So I'm going to declutter that one. I have the Oma Say What Weightless Soft Matte Hydrating Foundation. I really enjoy this. I love this product. I feel like it is a soft matte, but it's really hydrating. Like the claims or the name of this actually fit this foundation perfectly, whereas I don't always find that with a lot of foundations. The shade in this is Fair Lady T3C, and it's really too dark for me. And I never like had the inclination to replace it. And this is like, see how deep that is? This is more of like a whipped texture, but it still feels very lightweight on the skin. I just really enjoy this. The reason that I'm going to get rid of it is because it's older and the shade is just not good. I've had this for quite some time. I can't even remember when I've first purchased this, but I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago. So the product is just expired. I didn't use it as much as I should have, and I didn't think I loved it as much as I did. When I retested this with oily skin, I feel like this just performed a lot better on me. Longevity wasn't all day, but it was decent. 2 reasons that I'm getting rid of this is because the shade is not good and it's probably older, and I have so many other ones that I don't need to hold on to older ones unless I'm gonna like project pan them. And because that shade's no good, it's like 2 for 2 at this point. So the next one that I have is the Surreal Skin Foundation from Makeup by Mario. This one is one of those that has like mica in it, you know, the pearls. I don't think this one is as intense as the Maybelline Serum Skin Tint or the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Glow, but I still think it has it. I don't detect it on the skin though. I think the shade is too deep. It's in 5N. The wear on this just isn't good on me. It doesn't last very long. It doesn't separate incredibly bad compared to a lot of the other ones that do separation things, but I think it still does. And I feel like it's a heavier consistency on my skin. So I am going to hold on to this in reference, but I'm not going to keep this in my permanent collection because it doesn't perform well on me. So declutter. And then the final 2 that I have are like brand new to me. This is the Louis Vuitton foundation. What is the full name of this? The Les Fluides Fond de Teint foundation. I mean, I could be butchering that, who knows. I can't even see the shade, 15C. I think it's actually a pretty decent match. It's maybe a little bit too deep, but I can get away with it. I really like this. It has a ton of fragrance to it. If you don't get along with fragrance, I don't think you would like this. Both of these have not gone into a speed reviews yet, so I won't say too much, but I like both of these. And even if I wasn't doing a speed reviews on these would still stay. I really enjoy these. So yeah, both of these are going to stay with me. And those were the final two. So let me go grab what we're keeping and what we're decluttering. Here is everything that I am keeping. This is 31 different foundations / skin tints. I still feel like I could pare this down, and some of them give a little bit more love to, like the Givenchy and the Mercier, the Ritual de Fille, the Fenty over here, even the MAC one, to see if it works in the summertime. So I could see myself getting rid of a few more of these kind of along the way, giving some more love to the ones that don't stand out as being my absolute favorites in my collection. But 31 is so much better than I was doing. I was bursting at the seams in that foundation drawer, so I feel good about this. And then here's what I'm decluttering. Believe it or not, this is exactly 31 foundations. I literally cut my collection in half. I went from 62 to 31. I feel so good about that. I mean, I look at these and none of these make me want to pull them back out. And I feel confident that I know how these perform. I am decluttering 31, but there's a few in here that I am going to take out for reference, as I kind of told you guys. So let's go put the foundations that we're keeping back in the drawer. I will show you guys where I keep the foundations that I hold on to for reference, and then we'll be done. This is all the foundations I'm keeping. I put kind of my tinted sunscreens per se, like back there. I don't know, there's a couple more throughout here, but these are my like more full coverage over here and kind of here in these two rows of like high end. And then I started putting like lighter coverage, but still not like drugstore. And then I put all my drugstore right there. So the Catrice is like right up front here. And there's a ton of space in there. I mean, I had foundations going all the way in the back. I had foundations like shoved in slots with other ones. It just makes a ton more sense. I like all of these. I feel good about it. But I didn't put all of them away. I do have a couple that are up here on my vanity. Of course, the one from Louis Vuitton, then the one from Makeup Revolution, the Skin Silk, and those are going into a speed reviews. And these two are in my project pan. So these two stay up on my vanity in that little container right there where I use, these are the products I'm either panning or testing, basically. So those will go in there. And of the items that I'm decluttering, I took out these 5 to keep for reference. So I'll show you guys where I put these guys. All right, the lighting in here is absolutely terrible, you guys, but this little shelf here, I like keep a lot of stuff to get organized, but these are the system of drawers that I keep in my closet. And I also apologize for the echo of the stuff that I keep for reference. Please don't ask me why I keep things for reference. I mean, there are some things that make sense, like House Labs and the Rare Beauty liquid blushes, and then Merit, and then there's the Laura Mercier powder back there, like things that are really staple products that a lot of people really enjoy, and I hold on to those in case I want to talk about them, but I don't like them personally. Like, just have other products that I would rather reach for rather than those. And so I do keep this system of drawers. It's not a lot. I try and declutter it pretty frequently. I try to keep this very minimal and pass along anything pretty quickly so that it can get used. I do need to like get one of those magnetic palettes so that I can put these in there, because those I want to pass along. I'm gonna declutter those as well. They're just kind of like sitting on top. But anyway, I'm putting those 5 foundations in here, and then this is everything that is left to declutter, which I'm going to throw some of them away. I think 2 of them, and then the rest of them I am going to pass along to a family member and see if they want them. If you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you give it a thumbs up. I'm out of here and hope to catch y'all on the next one. Bye guys.